All right, Devin, it claims we're live. Once you give me verification, we'll get this underway.
Okay, just a little bit of lag time. I'll let you know. Okay, we are live.
All right, with that, we'll call to order the August 10th, 2020 meeting of the Tecumseh Public Schools Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Milt is not here yet. So, John, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, John.
All right, first thing on our agenda is our good news, which is the introduction of our Director of Business Services.
Okay, on my screen, 2 spaces to my viewing right, is Kelly Glenn. Not sure where she shows up everywhere, but Kelly started today and didn't run screaming. So we're happy to have her. She's going to be a very nice addition to the district. Lots of experience. We can have Terry share her resume now that the hiring process is complete. But already dug in with Judy today to do some sign-on and digging into the district budget and assumptions and all those sorts of things. Certainly not going to be able to talk too much in the monthly financial report, but I would like her to say hello and tell you a little bit about herself. But welcome, Kelly. We're all very much looking forward to having you as part of the team.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. A little bit about myself. I am a hometown girl. I am from Tecumseh, Michigan, graduated from Tecumseh Public Schools in 1985. You can say I'm in the family business. Both my parents worked for Tecumseh Public Schools at one time. And again, I'm happy to be here. I have a accounting degree and master's in accounting, so I do have some accounting skills. Hopefully you also find I have some social skills to go with that. And 25 plus years of school finance business and experience. So I'm happy to jump in and get started.
All right, thank you, Kelly, and welcome to TPS.
Thank you.
Public comment on agenda items only is our next section, and we have no registrants for our agenda item public comments. Which brings us to revisions and approval of the agenda. Are there any revisions to the agenda? No revisions. Oh, Tim?
Can we, am I muted here? Did you unmute me?
You're on.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we, I see we're discussing the school calendar, but I think it would be wise to get that approved tonight so people know what's going on, and 1 week before school is supposed to start. We'll put that as an action item.
I think we are discussing it for some updates to the school calendar. If the rest of the board members wish to, we could certainly move it to a discussion and action on the same night due to the timeline. Is there any disagreement, anything to add to that before Tim makes a motion and we get a second?
No, I think we should vote on it tonight.
All right. Well, I will consider Tim making the motion, John seconding the motion to revise the agenda and add the action item for the school calendar. All right. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda with the revision?
So moved.
Support.
I'll give it to Suzanne. She worked really hard to get that unmuted.
I know. I always forget that.
Roll call vote. Becky,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. We have an approved agenda. Moves us to our scheduled reports, our monthly finance reports. Rick, are you going to throw Kelly right into the mix here, or are you going to take it?
Yes, Kelly, what's on page 7? No, she's not had obviously an opportunity to look at those details. I breeze through them as I'm looking over the packet of information, but if you have something in detail that you'd like to know more about, I'll try to answer that, or Terry will take a note and we'll get the answer for you.
I did not have any questions. It looked pretty quiet, all things considered. John, did you have a chance to go through it?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions about the check register.
All right, fire away.
The first one was the TSA Consulting Group. I just wondered what that was, because there were 2 checks for the exact same amount.
That one I don't remember specifically, so we'll have to retrace that.
Yeah, one was cut on the 10th and one on the 24th, and all the numbers match. So I just want to make sure that wasn't a duplicate. And I'd like to know what that is exactly, what that consulting group is, if we're paying them $18,000. And the Toledo Zoo, what's our contract with the Toledo Zoo?
The only thing that we have done at the Toledo Zoo is our parent group held a prom there and may have had us pay that for them.
Okay, all right. Yeah, other than that, those were the only things that kind of jumped out.
I believe TSA Consulting is the group that did the cameras. And we'll look at that because some was in last year and some was supposed to be in this year's. So, but we'll double check that because the 18,000, I do know that's the amount.
Yeah, actually, there's a couple more checks to them for
Yeah.
1,200 and a couple more for 1,255. So
Okay.
we must have done a down payment and then a final payment or something on a
believe
bunch
so.
of different things.
For clarity, we're talking about our security camera upgrade that we approved last December, I believe, right?
Correct.
And that was all paid with grant money anyways, correct?
Correct.
But we'll just double check that we didn't do a payment duplicate on that. So,
Yeah, because there's 3 different amounts to TSA Consulting and there's duplicates of each amount. So
right. Okay.
that was my only question.
All right, thank you, John. Any other questions? All right. That's going to move us on to our discussion items tonight. We have, let's see, our 2020 and 2021 facility use fee schedule and our school calendar on for discussion items. Rick, take it away.
Well, on the use fee, at the last meeting, we had a request to, for comparison, collect some information from surrounding schools about their use fee schedule. And then you wanted that information to perhaps increase our fees or create possibly an additional cleaning fee given our current circumstances. So that information is provided, and be happy to listen to the discussion from that information and follow your guidance. I will say that Mr. Hawkins and I have talked, and we don't plan on approving very much facility use outside of our own school use during the school year. So it would be probably a minimal impact. But like I said, it's something that the board wanted to address. So you have a variety of documents in the packet, and I would follow any recommendation.
All right, since that time, I know some of the other school districts have put a moratorium on renting their buildings out for this school year, at least. Some of them have jumped on that. That might be something that we should consider, or at least we should talk about here beyond the fee schedule and additional cleaning schedule. I don't want to shut it down completely. There may be something that isn't strictly school, that's school related, but not strictly by the schools. Rick, what are your thoughts on that? Do you foresee anything if we shut down our building rental completely? Would there be something that would be adversely affected by that?
Nothing runs across my mind right now. Mr. Hawkins, is there anything that's jumping out at you?
No, sir. Nothing that I can think of right offhand.
Yeah. Yeah, we've actually talked about adjusting his first and second shift schedule based on the fact that we wouldn't have to clean around very many things after hours. So it's not our intention to approve anything at this time. You know, it may be where you want to suspend it until the end of the calendar year, and we could revisit it in January, see where things are.
All right, John, you had something to add?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if everyone else is closing, I think that gives us an opportunity to, rent our facilities if it makes sense to do it and if the income makes sense to do it. Especially if there's a shortage, we can use the revenue. So that was one of the purposes of reviewing this this rental schedule, to see if it made sense and to see, if we were making money, losing money, breaking even, everything else. So if there's an opportunity for us to, gain some income from renting our facilities if we're not using them and everyone else is closing down, I think that makes sense. But, we have to know the costs involved with cleaning and the policies and procedures that we have to make sure that we are cleaning and handling everything properly. But I see it as an opportunity, not a time to shut things down.
All right. I was just looking for something I didn't quite find, but I can't put my finger on the document with the cost for cleaning and such. Do you have that at hand there, Rick? Or maybe Tom, do you have it at hand? No? Pause just a minute. Let me look for.
No, I don't have it in the packet of information. Terry, have you got the use fee schedule that we approved or that we were submitting for approval?
Should be the second document in the attachments.
Yeah, ours is the first attachment in that whole group of them.
There it is. Yep, I didn't scroll up far enough.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you looking for specifically?
I just wanted to go over it again. I thought I had it up here earlier.
Yeah,
Which one is it?
TPS facility use.
yep. In the packet email, it's the second document.
Okay. There it is.
But Rick, this is our old document, correct? This isn't updated?
This one is not updated or amended to include any new schedule fee adjustments or extra cleaning fees. This is what was submitted last time. And we brought it back for further discussion with the comparative information. So we haven't made any changes, just awaiting recommendation.
Did anyone put
All right.
together a comparative schedule, like an Excel file or something? Or do we just have the documents from each school?
Just the documents.
All right, so we did we put together a cost sheet between facilities and the administrative office of what we anticipate we're going to have to charge to clean after somebody uses it?
We don't have that cost recommendation. Mr. Hawkins, what would your estimate be?
Or just cleaning up after events? Is that what we're trying to
Yeah.
figure out?
Yeah,
Well, it-
additional
it's sort of-
disinfecting and cleaning.
Sort of depends on the space, obviously, but in general, a cost would be about what?
I'd have to look into it. I don't know that offhand. Obviously, it's gonna be somewhat dependent on the event, what's being held, how much it's going to be used. But I mean, if we try to get in, the guys usually are here for about 4 hours, try to get in set up before and then the cleanup afterwards. So, you know, the cost of a custodian plus for 4 hours plus chemicals and things like that. So not a terrible amount to add on to it, especially with our new disinfecting machines and stuff. So we should be able to cover a lot of ground pretty quick as far as just in disinfecting and leaving.
All right.
I
Becky,
would
Tim,
potentially
Suzanne,
I would potentially recommend, you know, a $50 fee for a small space and $100 for a larger space.
off the cuff.
On this fee schedule, it's got how much per hour and how much for supplies to clean. So it's already on the fee schedule on page 4, I think it is. Let me see. So, yeah, page 4. So it's already got it on there.
Yeah, so for a big facility, Rick, it's already $25 an hour. And if we've got 4 hours of cleaning, normally, you know, that's at least 100. So that's really why we need to review this and have a better handle of it, because, you know, we need to understand the true cost of this and not just ballpark numbers.
Okay.
All right, I see, Tim, you're looking at page 4. It has the 4 different categories in a box at the very top and then finance underneath, correct, Tim?
Yeah. Yep. So it goes by the hour. So if it takes them 4 hours, it's category 3, you know, it's $100 plus $3 for supplies. So
Now, that's based on pre-COVID conditions though, correct?
Yes.
This is our standard pre-pandemic fee schedule.
I got to think that's
see-
probably going to go up a little bit.
I don't see it going up much. I mean, the chemicals that we currently use are for COVID as well. So it kills COVID as is what we've had. It's on the CDC's list. So it's not gonna, I mean, when you're cleaning something and wiping tables down, it's not gonna go up much at all. If any.
Is there extra cleaning that needs to be done or no? Not really? It's clean when they go in and then you clean again after, or?
Right, right.
And that matches the protocol of whatever they tell us we have to do for this COVID?
Yeah, the only difference would be some of the personal protection equipment. So
Okay.
we could adjust the fee schedule to include our costs for masks, gloves, and shields, which is required under the return to school roadmap.
All right, Becky, you had something to add?
Normally I'm all about, let's find ways to make the school money. In the current situation, if we're asking parents and other people to stay out of the school, I just don't think it makes sense to rent it out. Why don't we revisit this after the first semester and see where we're at? Just a thought.
John, you had something to add also?
Yeah, how much did we spend on the machines that we're using to disinfect?
The foggers, those were roughly $3,000 a piece. We just, I think we purchased 5 of them.
So that's another piece that we really need to look at. You know, if you were to rent that, you know, you have to think they're using our facilities, they're using our equipment. We just spent $15,000 on cleaning equipment. So it reduces the time that it takes to clean, but we need to charge a fee to try to recoup some of that cost. So those are just the little details in this thing that I wanted us to review, because we do have additional cost. You know, 15 grand is a lot of money that we need to, you know, try to recoup if we can.
So,
I think the amount of money we're talking about here is minuscule. So it's not like we're gonna be making, and I definitely agree with Becky too. So unless we were to really jack the prices up, to make money off of renting it to people, I don't even know how significant it is really.
well, from the sounds of it, the machines are going to take away some of the man hours from the cleaning, correct, Tom? You can just nod. Yes, no. That's what we're looking at. The machines are going to take some of the man hour loading away from cleaning. So we are going to get some cost return, but since we clean per hour and the machines are more efficient, I think we should probably see that boosted just a little bit to cover really the maintenance and the depreciation of the machine, I guess would be the proper way to say that. We should probably boost that a little bit. The big question remains, should we even consider renting out our facilities on the onset of this when we're not allowing parents in the school to drop their kids off? I think that it's kind of a mixed message. I'm not sure it's the best policy on the onset. Now, maybe Becky's, let's look at it at the end of the first semester, is a good way to go. So there's 2 separate questions. If we're okay with that fee schedule, by all means, we can approve it and then put a moratorium on renting the buildings out. That way we have a fee schedule in place. Or we could modify that fee schedule, approve the modified one, and still put a moratorium on it and address it at the end of the first semester. We have some options here. Tim, you have a thought bubble above your head.
Well, I would say let's just approve what we have here and let Rick and Tom figure it out, and then maybe come back after the first semester and say, hey, we need to increase the cleaning supplies or whatever. You know, I think we're getting into muddy waters here. I think we just go with their recommendation, and if they need to adjust it later, they can and bring it back to us. But
Yep, I agree.
so.
Well, it's only on as a discussion item tonight, so if you'd like us to adjust it and bring it back.
It's on action as well.
It's on action as well.
Okay, got moved to action. So yeah, when you get to action, you can make a motion at that point.
All right. All right, we'll look at that when we get to action items. Next up is discussion on the 2020 and 2021 school calendar. And did you have anything to add to that at this time, Rick?
I do. At the time that we proposed this back in July, we had discussions with the TEA negotiations team about the full calendar. The board had set the start date for school based on the August 31st date, the week before school. All schools in the county but two were starting on the 31st. We've seen some movement in the county to push that date out a week. And we're sort of in the same boat when it comes to the schedule that, or the delivery date for some of the personal protective equipment and our technology devices. Moving that date out a week would allow us a little more time to have those things in hand and processed, and specifically to have teachers trained on them. One of the items is the Chrome touchpads. Those could potentially come in right under the wire, and our teachers never really have any time to be able to learn how those work, and then immediately have some of our younger students working on them. So for those reasons, and then we would like to take the time to not only plan and prepare, but also train. We would be resetting our PD days for staff that first week of September, and basically dress rehearsal everything. We want to make sure that that not only our staff is safe, but of course our students are safe, and that we understand our own procedures. So it'll give us a little bit more time to plan and prepare, make sure that we have the equipment that's delivered. So I have suggested that the board may move on my recommendation. My recommendation for tonight is to adjust the start date to be September 8th for students, with the previous week to be negotiated with the TEA about the PD days, front loaded for planning and prep of all the things that we're going to do differently under the circumstances. That would adjust then the last day of school, which is also something that we would re-enter a conversation with the TEA. I've given them the information. They had a TEA meeting tonight, I think probably done by now. So they're aware of my intention to move that start date recommendation. We do have an agreed upon calendar, so it would take board action to reset that start date. But because of all those factors, I'm recommending that we move the start date to the 8th, and then I approach the TEA for an agreement about what that will mean to the rest of the calendar.
Becky?
So you've had a little bit of discussion with the TA. Do you think they're receptive to it? I guess is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I've had preliminary conversations with the leadership, but the only thing about the calendar that's not negotiable is the start date. Everything else has to be agreed to. It's a fairly simple move if we just move the end date from the 4th to the following week, probably Thursday. So it should be a fairly simple conversation with the TEA, but I don't want to presume to know exactly what their answer will be to that. But the start date is ours. Everything else in the calendar is pretty well agreed to. We would have to come up with a new ending date and have it ratified.
Thank you.
And you said June 10th was the new target ending date?
That would be my suggested target ending date, half day on June 10th.
Okay, how does that leave us on school days for the year, meeting the state requirements? So we have plenty extra built in there still for snow
Yeah,
days?
we would still be at 181 days. We would be well above the hours required. There's really no indication from Department of Ed yet if there's going to be any waiver on that. I know there's one plan in the Senate that's talking about a reduction of snow day time and a requirement for online learning for those days. But none of that has been passed. So we're really just talking about our start and end date and all of the dates in between related to vacations and conferences and marking periods and things like that. I don't think we'll adjust that very much except to just roll things forward a week in all of those instances.
All righty. Further discussion on that?
Well, I think it's a good idea. I think everybody's got a lot of anxiety going into it, especially teachers and the staff. I think this will give them more where they can give more feedback on how things are going to look and so forth, and how things are going to work, instead of just kind of throwing everybody in the first day and go sink or swim. So I think this is a really good idea, actually. So I know that I'm sure the rest of you board members have gotten emails from teachers and so forth, which I appreciate. So anybody that's emailed me, thank you. But I think this will really help calm a lot of nerves and kind of, bring everybody together. And I think this is a very good move. So I'm in favor.
It seems like a simple thing, but honestly, just practicing wearing a mask for 7.5 hours is something that we want to be able to troubleshoot and figure out just how it's going to work, how it's going to feel, and be prepared. Now, granted, we can do that with the staff whatever week we start, but this gives us, again, more time to plan and prepare and to anticipate when those deliveries are going to be, so that we know that we have all the equipment and materials that we need on time.
John?
I wasn't a huge fan for the original change anyway, so I'm happy to move it forward. I don't think we should start school before the holiday ever. So yeah, I'm for moving it forward.
Becky, did you have something to add? Okay. I thought I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I would have to say that I agree with those sentiments. I'm never in a hurry to make a bad decision, and I don't think extra prep time has ever hurt anybody. And in this case, it's well warranted. So that's my 2 cents on it. As long as we're talking about this, we've got Ben Newsom sitting down here. If he'd like to unmute himself, we can, Ben? So from your end, how are you guys doing prepping for this new reality?
We're ready to go. The state roadmap, there's only a couple things that we have to do, right? So obviously disinfect after every transit route, which we will. So after every morning, every afternoon, everyone has to wear a mask, and students have to hand sanitize before they get on the bus, and we will have sanitizer on the bus as well. All of that's in place. We have our material. All the drivers are coming back. We're just working on the routes as people withdraw. If they're going to go virtual, a lot of discussions with the board office and the staff for me this week. We're ready to go.
All right, so you're at the starting line already then.
As close as we can be with everything that's going on. Like I said, the principals and the staff are great. They're very communicative. So again, as folks withdraw, like I said, and we're working on the routes, it's just getting that information finalized for school start, but we're ready to go.
All right, so while we've got Ben unmuted here, are there anybody, any other board members that have a question or comment for Ben?
I think it'll help Ben as well as far as routes because it'll give him a little bit more time because people are probably still signing up for the TVA or distance learning today. I assume that deadline was midnight tonight, so so that'll give him some more time to get that information out there as well. So I think it's just a good plan to move it forward, like I said before.
John?
So John said.
Oh,
so.
sorry, Tim.
Yeah.
John?
I was going to bring this up later in other discussions, but I'll bring it up now. I think one of the keys to combating this is going to be making sure we don't allow sick kids on the buses and in the schools. And I think one of the keys to doing that, and it's working with lots of businesses and in other areas, is taking their temperature. So I don't know how we facilitate that with the buses, but I think that before a kid gets on the bus, they need to have a temperature check. And I think before a kid gets in the school, they have to have a temperature check. I know that some of the roadmaps out there have said that the parents are responsible for this, but honestly, the parent track record for sending sick kids to school has not been good over the years. So I think we need to be the safeguard as far as temperature checks go. So whatever we can do, however we have to do it, as far as staffing goes, whether we train the bus drivers, whether we have an aide, something, but I truly believe the key to helping with this is to make sure no kids with fevers even get on the bus or in the schools.
All right. I think that,
You had something to say. I
it's,
agree also, especially I'm with most everyone on this. I don't like starting before the holiday anyway, because it's like one last holiday. So I'm fine with September as a norm. But I'm glad we're postponing this for the teachers and to get ready. Also, from a manufacturer standpoint, having been in that business for almost 30 years, people run late, and I sell lockers. So in the busy season of lockers, the summer, and anything, this personal protection equipment could be running late. I mean, we're 2 weeks late on certain types of product, 1 week late on another, and it always happens in August. So to wait until, a while after the date we're supposed to receive Chromebooks and other supplies, is it also very, that very well could be delayed, us getting those. And I think we should be very careful, but I don't want to go overboard either with the temperature thing. But I think we need to do what the county tells us to do, and what works best for us. And but I do know what John's saying, because people come to school with a slight fever and you don't even hardly know it, So I'm not sure. Rick will have to work with that recommendations, and I'm not sure if all schools are taking all temperatures or how exactly that works, but there are guidelines we have to follow. I know that.
There are. We'll talk about them a little bit later when we get into the roadmap and the approval.
We're a little ahead of ourselves.
yeah, getting a little ahead of ourselves.
It's definitely something we want to all feel comfortable with.
Does anyone have any other questions or discussion with Ben? All right, the room's gone quiet, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
You can hang around or you're free to go, but thank you for showing up and have yourself a great night.
My pleasure. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
And well, I'm going to fit this tangent under school calendar because, well, it's where I'm going to fit it. John Zajac is also here from athletics, and we're talking about changing the calendar schedules. And that's a pretty good time to talk about our athletic calendar. John, how you doing tonight?
Well, I'm good. How are you guys? Yeah, today is the first day of fall sports, but and we had a meeting yesterday with Mark Ewell, the executive director of MHSA, and right now everything's on target to start. So we're up in the air. I said I don't know about a million times the past couple of weeks to coaches, other ADs, other administrators, other people. We just don't know what's going to happen. It's unforeseeable future, but right now we're going. The football team's out there right now working out. Everything else starts on Wednesday. So that's our roadmap. We're supposed to get some more insight from the MHSA today or tomorrow. We have not received it yet today, but I'm looking forward to get that at any time so we can have some more information on what we can and cannot do. But
All
the
right.
Big Ten made an announcement today that there's no football. They're moving it to spring. So, I don't know what that's going to do for high school sports. No idea. I don't know. 1,000,001.
John, how are you doing
John
with
is,
kids following those protocols for the school? All right.
Yeah, I mean, so far we've had a bunch of Zoom meetings with our coaches, and they're following protocol. We have COVID forms in my office. I bought 10 thermometers for programs that we're working out the whole summer. They have their binders full of the COVID sheets. I was for all the documentation every time they had a workout. So every single kid that's been to a workout has documentation what the temperature was, and then the COVID checklist that the MHSA sent us. So far so good. I mean, we've had to send a couple kids home because they had a fever, like we just talked about. So those kids did go home, but fingers crossed. For the most part, it's been a pretty good summer for our teams, for our kids.
All right. John, contingent plans. Let's say the fall sports season just gets cut off at the knees, which is a likely possibility at this point. Do we have contingent plans to keep our kids involved in the sport and active, whether it be one-on-one competition within our own school or anything like that?
Right. So a lot of that is
Contingent.
dictated. Yeah, a lot of that's dictated by the MHSA and their guidelines, what the NFHS says we can and can't do. We can't do our own thing unless MHSA says we can do it. We're under their guidance, their protocols, their rules and regulations. So right now there's a million options out there. Talking to Mark Ewell, the director, yesterday, he said the same thing. Nothing's off the table. Nothing's on the table. We're trying to figure out the best way that our kids can be active. And I feel like we did in the summer. It was great. The kids they were working out with Coach Lindy and Coach Casper and Coach Air, doing weight and training stuff and strength and agility. Other teams were doing their little workouts as far as sports specific, but looking in the future, I hope so. I hope there's different things that our kids can do just to keep them active. It's awesome to see the kids out there, just interacting with each other, still keeping a social distance, but just being around their friends for, the 45 minutes that they're there. They need that, and it's been a good thing for them, I think, this summer to have. So moving forward, I wish I could give you a great answer, but I just don't have one, and hopefully we get one soon. But right now we don't have one.
All right. Well, does anyone have any discussion with John about athletics tonight? All right. The room's gone quiet again. Thank you for coming by, John. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
John.
We've learned a lot about kids and social distancing. It's been interesting because especially the teens, they gravitate towards each other, even in a structured environment like that. So it's been kind of a window into what our teachers will face and what things that we need to have in place. And I know that all of John's coaches have been careful about those sorts of things. But you have to stay on top of it. And like I said, we've paid attention to some of the things that have gone on, and we know a little bit more about what to expect going into the school year. So thank you, John, and thanks to all your coaches.
Thanks. See you guys. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night, John.
Hi, John.
We're welcoming Milt to the meeting. Milt is just in time for our action items tonight. Leading off the action items, return to school roadmap. Becky, do you have a motion?
I hereby move to approve the 2020-2021 return to school roadmap for Tecumseh Public Schools as presented.
Support.
All right, discussion?
I do have one edit to report. In your packet, it is outlined in red on page 12. The original language is crossed out. This was an update from the Lenawee County Health Department. The old language said, students, staff members, or contracted service providers who test positive for COVID-19 may return to work when, one, at least 72 hours have passed since recovery. At least 7 days have passed since symptoms first appeared. And 3, when authorization to return to work is provided by the Lenawee County Health Department. That was the original language. They updated the language with the LISD, and the county members are also moving on this adjustment. The new language that you will be asked to approve is number 1, at least 24 hours with no fever without the use of fever reducing medication. Number 2, symptoms have improved. Number 3, at least 10 days have passed since symptoms first appeared. And 4, when authorization to return to work is provided by the health department. So a little bit more detail in that, and the timelines changed a little bit. So I wanted to make sure that we drew your attention to that. That was the only edit that was made. The other things that I want to draw to your attention are near the end of the plan. It is required that if a school district is not going to follow one of the strong recommendations, that detail be placed in the plan explaining why you're not. You're not required to follow the strong recommendations, but you are required to give your reasoning why you're varying from the strong recommendations. And this really only has to do with phase 4. So I bring that to your attention. And looking on page 19 are the 2 items that we are not in our plan going to adhere to in the strong recommendations. The first one has to do with student face coverings in the young 5s through 4th grades. And there's detail in there explaining some of the difficulties and some concerns from the American Academy of Pediatrics for wearing face coverings at that age. So we are making a variance on that. And it also explains that we are cohorting our kids, which means kids will stay in a homeroom primarily throughout the day. When they travel from the bus into the classroom, out of the classroom to lunch or another learning area, such as the library or something like that. And when they travel from the classroom to the bus, they will be wearing masks. While they're, this is, I guess, comparative to a restaurant, you wear your mask in. Once you get to your table and you're seated, then you can remove your mask. So we're saying in our plan that that is going to be our process for the younger learners, pre-K through 4th grade. I just want to make sure that the board understands that that's our reasoning for not adhering to that strong recommendation. And then the second one talks about desks and tables that are spaced 6 feet apart. The standard that we are going to attempt to achieve is 6 feet of nose to nose social separation. The actual physical desk or table may not be 6 feet apart. Our goal is going to be to space the individual students and adults in the room up to 6 feet apart. That's a little bit different standard. It's a variance from the strong recommendation. It's going to be our goal to achieve that. Some of it relies heavily on the number of students who won't be in our facilities. And last check, we were at about 760 students who are registered in one of the online versions of instruction. So we're nearing 30%. 30% would be about 800 students. And as Tim pointed out, the deadline, essentially, we won't be interacting with the information tomorrow morning. So if somebody's up fretting over it until 4 a.m., they'll get that leeway. But this variance is about a nose-to-nose measurement and not a desk-to-desk measurement. As it says in there, in our facilities with our square footage, planning on worst case scenario, which is everybody shows up face to face, we would have to go to a hybrid plan where not every student would be able to come to school 5 days a week. And the survey information that we were provided from parents, around 70% of our parents are hoping for 5-day-a-week participation in person. So if for that to be true, then we have to vary from the language that's in the plan. So those are two things that I want to make sure that the board members are clear that we're not following strong recommendations on. And then the final thing that we'll need to discuss, if you want to discuss it, is Member Benzing's comments about temperature taking. The county health department, who is our kind of guidance guru for all of the things having to do with medical concerns, their strong recommendation is that a login protocol by parents at home take place and the temperatures be taken and verified with us electronically or on paper if it's necessitated, that those temperatures are taken previous, and as he said, previous to them entering our buses or our facilities. That is really logistically about the only way that we can cover that topic. Ben left, but certainly his bus drivers, while they're on the side of the road, their attention needs to be primarily on their mirrors, oncoming traffic, and the student coming and going from the pickup site onto the bus. So it's going to be very difficult for bus drivers to be taking temperatures, and then even more difficult for bus drivers to deal with a situation if a temperature is indicated. So it's something that I think the board needs to be clear on. Our recommendation in the plan for temperature taking and for screening is to follow the recommendations of the health department, and the health department's recommendation is for parents to be responsible for temperature checks. We do have a caveat in there that says that temperatures can be rechecked at school, and that's a possibility and a probability. We can and will do that, but the first line of defense in this case, as recommended by the health department, is temperature checks at home and an electronic login process for them to verify that those things have been done. Through that process, we will receive email prompts from the system, either indicating a problem or indicating that the temperature check was not completed. At least nobody signed in or logged in to address that. And in that case, then we would follow up with our own temperature check. So it's a detail that really administratively we have had much discussion on, and I know locally and in the county and across the state, people are going to try different things, but generally they're following the recommendations of the health department in the county that they're located. And ours says that there should be a parent requirement in our protocol. So once we get through all the data collection with the different modes of teaching and learning, then we will reach out to anybody who hasn't selected either the distance model or the virtual academy, and we'll let them know these are your responsibilities for coming face to face. And one of them is not only a daily temperature check, but daily interaction with our electronic information collecting app or computer spreadsheet. So those are the things that I most really wanted to bring to your attention, up for discussion before you act on this motion to approve the plan. And any questions aside from those or in addition, please let me know.
John?
Yeah, I've got two things. The first one is the face masks. I've heard from a lot of teachers and, older kids that, they don't want to necessarily have to wear face masks all day either. And it honestly, to me, doesn't make any sense. If we're not going to make one group of kids wear face masks, why would we make everyone else wear face masks? I get that it's more difficult to keep the younger kids with face masks on, but the purpose of this is, supposedly to be safer. So I think the policy should be either they're optional for everyone or they're not optional for everyone. But to single out one subset just because it would be more difficult for them to wear masks, I think is unfair to everybody else. The second piece is with what Rick just said about the temperature checks. There's no way to stop these kids from getting on the bus or in the schools. And it's going to be more time consuming to have to go through all these emails and go through all these checks and balances to see if a kid had a temperature check done. And I can tell you right now, parents are not going to log in every day and, put in their kid's temperature. They're probably just going to go on and log in and say, yep, it's fine, and not even check it. And we've had a history of parents sending sick kids to school. So and John Zajac just proved my point perfectly tonight with what he said. They have thermometers. They are checking kids on a daily basis, and they're sending people home because of fevers. And I think, and it doesn't sound like we've had any issues or instances of outbreaks with our athletic kids, and they're following that procedure. So I think the onus is on us to do these temperature checks. And unfortunately, we just can't rely on the parents or the system, because it sounds like with this system, we would literally have to have somebody going through emails and checklists before a kid gets on a bus or before a kid walks in the school. Because we could have 50 kids walk in the school without having temperature checks, and we wouldn't know it until someone goes through all that information. Those are my thoughts on that process.
Well, I can speak to the your comment about the younger kids not having face mask on. The reason I was in on a discussion with the health department about this, and the reason is they found that when the younger kids have the face mask on, they spend all day fidgeting with it and touching their face, and it actually transfers more virus, germs, bacteria, etc. Because their hands are all over their face and then all over everything else. That's why they don't recommend the youngest kids have them on for a prolonged period. I don't know that. I believe Rick is still the health department's position on it, correct?
It is. Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
okay.
though, if you go out in public and watch people, adults, kids, everybody constantly touching their masks. So I get what they're saying with the younger kids, but if you go out in public and spend 20 minutes watching people, I guarantee most of them are going to touch their mask.
You do get, I have to wear a mask 8 hours a day along with safety glasses at work. You do get used to it after a while. It takes about 2 weeks, I would say. And then it becomes just something that's there. But I see the same thing you see, that people are always adjusting their mask and such. It's the downside of them, I guess. But as far as the little kids not having it, that's strictly following the health department's recommendation. Well, that's why we went there with it. We do have a list of people who want to talk here, but before we get too far into it, Rick, did you have anything to add to John's discussion?
No, not really. I mean, I'm comfortable with the recommendation that's in the plan, based on what is typically being agreed to, not only in our area, but in many places across the state. But it's a variance from the strong recommendations. So before the board takes action, I just want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with supporting the rules, whatever they are. We just want to make sure that the board is comfortable as well.
All right. Tim, you're up.
We gonna do any like, ooh, am I muted? Nope, okay.
You're unmuted.
Are we gonna do any like check, just testing of staff or anything? Is the health department gonna do any of that? I mean, that's all we hear is testing, testing, testing. And so yeah, people aren't really getting tested until they think they have it. Are we gonna be doing any testing before we think somebody has it? Just some random testing?
There's nothing in the plan about random testing of staff, but we do have a daily screening protocol that every employee will have to go through, and that includes a morning temperature check. And then
But it can be,
answering the questions that are similar to the questions that we're asking our athletes on a daily basis about
right.
symptoms and exposure to symptoms and so on.
And those questions, just to add to this, to interject, before I go to work every morning, it's a quick infrared temperature check. I have to do that and answer the same standard questions that I'm sure floated down from the CDC to the health departments.
Yep.
That's just, it's a requirement every morning. It only takes it probably takes me about 15 seconds anymore. I just do it on my cell phone. But I think the employees, Rick, they have the same form as the kids do, or they have a different form just for them?
We're actually going to, we work with a product called Frontline, and it doesn't have anything to do with dog color or anything like that. It's this product that does our absence management and our application process and so on. And that does have an employee module for these health screenings. And we will require each individual to interact with that by a certain time each morning for each building. And again, that also alerts administration about either a problem that's indicated in the system or somebody who fails to do that. It'll send an email two ways. It'll send the email to the employee basically saying, oops, you forgot to do your health screening, and one to the office staff to say, by the way, teacher A didn't complete their health screening. So it's a product that we already pay for. It's something that's available within that product, and we will be training people on that PD week where we're getting things ready. So the staff screening is pretty well covered within a system that we already own.
Sorry. Did that satisfy your question, Tim?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. All right. Next, we're moving on to Suzanne.
Basically, I just feel that we need, although we need to stay within the guidelines, there's going to be some variance, and they strongly recommend something. That doesn't mean we can't back up a little bit. I agree with everything Rick said. I think we need to maintain flexibility. I think it's unrealistic to think bus drivers can take temperatures while they're also driving the bus. I think we should let the parents do it at home and go by what the guidelines are and track that the best that we can. Although I do agree with John that I don't think it's going to be perfect. I also know that the risk for this age group is so incredibly low that I think we should just try to follow the guidelines as best we can, but also interject some common sense. I 100% agree with John that I don't know why older kids, if they're socially distanced and they're 6 feet apart, nose to nose, can't take their masks off when they're in the classroom. I don't, and just use them in between. And I just want Rick to know that there should be flexibility moving forward to to kind of go with the flow. And a lot can happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks before school even starts with treatments and more science coming out. There's a whole 4 weeks left almost, but I just think I think we need to try to interject some common sense. And I hate masks, so I can't even imagine any age child, especially the younger ones. I totally agree with with everyone on that, but I touch mine every other minute. I mean, not even every other minute, maybe like every 15 seconds. It really bothers me. There's going to be people that it really bothers. And I think we need to accommodate those people too. And I'm not sure what the protocol is if they're 6 feet apart, why they can't take their mask off in the classroom, and the teacher too, or maybe not the teacher, but the kids, or I don't know, but I'm just willing to be flexible with this whole thing throughout this whole process.
All right.
People are in school. Oh, I'm cut off. People are there face to face because they want to be. If they're nervous about it, and then they're going to stay home and they're going to do virtual learning. So I think we need to keep the face to face, as we need to keep trying to move it as close to normal as we can within reason. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Suzanne. Becky, you're up next.
I got a couple for you, Rick. So first, I do agree with you, John. I wish we could do the temperature checks at the door. I think that makes sense. But I also can see where that's going to run into some HIPAA issues. If you take a kid's temperature and it's high, and then you're pulling that kid aside in front of peers, and there's no good way to do it. I think it should be done, but I don't think there's a good way to do it. Next, the Apogee. How are we coming on that? And does it have a feature that they could use that to incorporate what we're talking about here?
Apogee is something that I turned over in May to Devin and Cindy, and of course Cindy's no longer here. Devin, are you lurking out there somewhere in the cyberspace? You could
There he is, the masked crusader.
There hasn't been a lot of movement on Apogee. We should probably have an internal meeting on that. There's still lots to complete.
Okay. All right.
I think that they would work with us with the app if we wanted to put something in there that would be a simple one click for parents to go to for health screening. I think that would be fairly easy for us to request and for them to do. The details of that I couldn't go into further, but I do know that we control the conditions of the app in terms of what do we want parents to be able to interact with quickly.
Right.
So we could on our main app have something for parents to touch quickly that would take them to our health screening module, whatever that might be.
Based on my experience so far with this, which I'm kind of in the same boat as Kevin, the mask and all that. The easier it is, the more cooperation you'll get using it. It's still not going to be 100%, but the easier it is, the better off we'll be. Next question for you. So our older kids with their mask, and I'm asking this as a parent, what is their, what are the repercussions going to be for not wearing the mask, or for what are we doing about that?
Right. Well, the trouble with coming up with a short statement on the issue is that not every situation fits the rule exactly. It will fall in our handbook under the what they call elastic clause, or the failure to comply with a reasonable request. So you would typically address it the way that you would any behavior. And that would be to have a conversation, involve parents in that conversation, and then raise the stakes as failure to comply is repeated. Some of the things that we could eventually do would be to mandate a student to for a period of time to be in virtual learning, and then set the conditions for return, and then maybe get to the point where we're just assigning a student to full-time online learning because of that breach of safety.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks, Rick.
All right, and next up we had Milt.
I was trying, Kevin, but don't worry about it.
All right.
I'm kind of wondering on the temperature checks. It's kind of scary that we can't do anything. There's nothing we can do, Rick. I mean, if you got parents in normal time, we're sending kids there ill. What are we going to do if the child is ill and in the classroom for a while?
Well, there are protocols. Yeah, there's protocols in the plan for what to do if a teacher perceives symptoms and referring that student to the office. But the idea of allocating resources to our main entrances to take temperatures would take quite a long time. And if you're suggesting that that's how we handle things, we'll come up with a version of how we can handle it. But we'll even with 800 kids not coming through our doors, we're still going to have as many as 1,600 kids, maybe 17, actually coming through our doors. So it'll be a large task to allocate the staffing and the resources to do that, to have the number of infrared thermometers that it's going to take to do that. We would have to probably disperse the entrances so that they weren't all collected, because you still have to maintain social distancing during that time. And then, it works pretty well September and into October, but we get into the cold weather months, and then you're having kids stand in line outside the building in temperatures that normally you wouldn't want to do that. So it certainly presents its challenges, and it's not in line with what our health department is saying is acceptable practice. So it's a problem in our minds, but our health department, who is giving us a lot of guidance on these issues, is saying this is the best way to handle it. So that's why we're sticking with that recommendation. To answer the question, Milt, can we come up with something? I'm confident that our people can do just about anything, but it'll be a challenge. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, to that end, when it comes to the school taking temperatures and such, and pulling kids or employees out, have we consulted our attorneys and the health department about HIPAA and possible no-go situations there?
Our attorneys haven't. I mean, Troon has done some workshops with districts, and their go-to is typically to make sure that you're following health department recommendations and that you don't vary too strongly from those recommendations. That's what Troon says. And then our school nurse, Denise Osworth, has worked and continues to work closely with the other school nurses in the county and the directors at the health department, and they've written some pretty good protocols for parents to follow that have to do with the responsibility of the screening taking place at home. I absolutely agree that that's a bit of a gamble, but it's in line with the recommendations from the health department, and it certainly guarantees that we don't have to allocate those resources and the personnel at the door.
Alrighty. Got a sec. Okay, I made it through my list of people that wanted to
Have a-
speak on that.
A couple other items, if we're done with that part of the conversation.
I
But
had something else I wanted to add to that.
Okay,
As far as the temperature checks go, as a parent who's dropped their kid off at Compass for the last 3 years on a daily basis, I don't see it being an issue. We typically have at least 2 people standing out, on the curbside at Compass to greet the kids. And each car pulls up, kids jump out, walk in the school, next car pulls up. If we had 2 or 3 people, we already have 2 outside. If we added 1 more person, those temperature readers take literally seconds to read. All you'd have to do is walk up to the car like they normally do to greet the kid, hit them with the temperature check and let them out of the car or stay in the car. So as far as, I don't see us having lines of kids at the door. And I think, it would not be that difficult of a task. I've watched, like I said, I've dropped my kid off at Compass daily, and I've never seen a line of kids going in the door because the parents have to pull up, open the doors, drop the kids off, and then the next one comes up. So it's like a consistent cars and walk into the school.
right. The parent drop would be certainly a doable flow of kids coming in. The issue would be the bus drop off end of the school where they come in mass. Even if there's only 20 kids on the bus, when 6 buses drop at the same time, then you're over 100 kids. So that would be more my concern, would be the bus area than it would be the parent area.
And that's why I suggested maybe do an 8 or something on the bus who has the temperature check. Literally, I mean, if there's 3 or 4 or 5 kids getting on the bus, you're talking an extra, 5 seconds a kid for them to zap them with the temperature check. It doesn't have to be the bus driver. It could be someone else. But I think the key, from what I understand of this virus and what I've read, the key to combating this is to keep the sick people quarantined. That's the key. So if we can find a way to keep a sick kid or a sick teacher out of the school, all the other stuff becomes less important. It's still important to have masks and cleaning and things like that, but you don't need all that stuff if you don't have the virus in the school. And I think the key to fighting this is to stop the virus from getting in the school.
I think I agree with John. We want to stop getting the virus in the school. But, some of these kids are not, or anybody might not even have any symptoms. And that's the other issue, is that people don't have symptoms. We can do all the temperature checks we want all day long and someone's still going to have it. So we're in a rock and a hard place here. We're damned if we do and damned if we don't. So, again, it's like Suzanne said, it's, these kids have more of a chance of drowning than they do of dying from COVID. I'm more worried about our staff than the children getting this and so forth. So I'd rather see more emphasis on better PPE for our staff because they're the older generation, not older, but they're not as young as these kids are. And I'd rather see us really concentrate on that, where maybe they got N95 masks, so they're not breathing in the kids' stuff. I understand they're gonna have to take them off to talk to the kids, but I'd rather really concentrate on that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anybody getting this, I don't want anybody getting this. I don't want anybody dying. But I'm just looking at the scientific numbers, and they got a better chance of dying in a car accident coming to school or riding on the bus than they do of dying from this disease. So, virus.
Right. Yep, 100% right.
That is true. I think that what we've seen worldwide is most of the kids who are affected by it have an underlying condition. The real issue is we don't want to discover a child has an underlying health condition because they get COVID and, you know, they die. That's not the way we want to discover it.
No.
Becky, you had a comment?
Again, I agree with John. I think we should try to do temperature checks. I just don't see the feasibility of it. When you've got, like you said, all the kids getting off of the bus, and we still got that issue of even if we put the aide on the bus, so the aide finds a kid that has a temperature. Now what? Are you sending the kid home? Our parents home? Now we've got a whole new protocol we have to put in place. And then same thing as the kids, if we're doing at school, as they're getting off the bus, kid has a temperature. Now we've got to take him away from, you know, people are going to see him being taken away. How is that going to be perceived by the parents? Is that opening us up to HIPAA issues? You know, that's, Tim summed it up best. We're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
Well, I agree. We're damned if we do, if we're damned if we don't. But the reality of it is I don't see parents getting upset with us for doing the right thing. You know, at the end of the day,
it would not be the first time.
Well, we're always going to have people who get upset with us no matter what we do. But the reality of it is we can't please everyone all the time. The
Agreed.
Goal of this is to keep everybody safe and to have the best conditions inside the school. So, of course, there's going to be people that aren't going to agree with us. I mean, the reality of this whole process is we have three different groups of people in my mind. We have the group of people who are not going to send their kids to school. They're going to do virtual. We have a group of people who want to send their kids to school, but they're going to want to wear masks. And we're going to have a group of people who are going to want to not want to wear masks at school. Those are really the three groups that we have. Oh, the other part that I forgot I was going to ask Rick about was this discipline for not wearing a mask. You know, one of the stipulations inside these plans is if anyone has a medical condition where they can't wear a mask, they're not required to. So how are you going to handle those kids who say, hey, I've got a medical condition, I can't wear a mask? Are you going to still discipline them? Or are you going to allow them to be in the classroom and in the school without a mask on?
No, the plan indicates that if a student has a medical waiver, that they can't be required. So at that point, we'll do our best to have that student distance from folks. But there really isn't any recourse on our part. Even if we attempt to persuade those folks to take one of the online versions, it's not something that we can require, which I agree, it's a weakness in this roadmap.
Well, and the second part of that, John, is not everyone presents with a fever. There's a significant portion that don't. So that's
let's look at the reality of the situation we're in. And the reality is that kids are they succumb to the flu season and die more readily than they do, or more frequently, of the seasonal flu than of COVID. So let's follow the science as well and use logic and say, you know, are we going to do this every year, all year, take temperatures every flu season? Because it's more dangerous than this. So I agree, we have to do we have to stay within the guidelines of the state, but I say that's as far as we go. I don't think we need to go overboard. I think the teachers are going to do their own due diligence and taking their own temperatures. They are by far more at risk. I'm even hearing more and more studies are showing kids don't even transmit it to adults. So until we have more science, the science we do have right now tells us that we don't need to go overboard here. I mean, we don't know because this virus is new and we've never seen it before. But from what we've seen so far, science tells us the seasonal flu is more dangerous to our student population than COVID is. So let's just follow the guidelines and let Rick be flexible. And as it changes, even if we're positive, it's no more worse than the seasonal flu. We have to stay within the state guidelines, what our governor says and what the health department says. So, and there's 4 weeks left. So I don't think we should keep beating this dead horse. I think we should let Rick be flexible. I'm glad we're all giving our opinions. I think temperature checks for every single kid is overkill and impossible to do, just like Becky said. And I just think we stay within the guidelines and keep the conversation going every other week in our board meetings, and just keep trying to adjust things so the kids are more comfortable, or the most comfortable they can be. And the faster they can get back to normal, I think the better off they'll be for sure. And we'll get there, all of us eventually, but we'll just take our time getting there. I just don't think we need to go overboard here.
All right, Rick, did you have any more discussion or any more
Yeah,
addendums to the question?
I think 3 other things that I want to submit. First of all, we put out on paper last week the 1-page, 3-column document talking about the 3 types of programming that we're offering. The face-to-face, the distance learning, which is an online real-time model with our instructors, our materials, and our programming. And then the third one is the Tecumseh Virtual Academy, which is a better fit for people who are looking for anytime, anywhere. It'll be monitored by our staff, but not it's not the direct teaching that the distance learning model is. It's a programmed learning through Edmentum. So what I would like is for the board to include that 1-page document as an attachment to the roadmap plan. It's not required, but I'd still like to see the board action approving those 3 models of instruction. And then also, I want to put out there that in the plan, there's no threshold in the plan, and there doesn't seem to be a threshold that schools are adopting to say, once the district has this many positive tests, we're all going to an online version. There's nothing in this plan that addresses that. So I simply want to ask the board, is there a threshold in your mind? The plan simply says that we will follow the health department's guidance, case by case. And at some point, a district, whether it's Tecumseh or somewhere else, they'll have to have that hard conversation with their local health department to say, gosh, things seem to be going out of control in your facilities. It's better if you go to a distance learning model for everybody. Is the board comfortable with that approach, or is there a point at which you would want to intervene? Is there a number in your mind? Is 1 too many? Is 10 too little? Again, I don't think that it needs to be a part of this plan, but I'd like to hear the board's thoughts on the issue and how we might handle that.
Becky?
I'd certainly like to work with the health department on it. I think what we need to be watching is if there's a community spread. If we start seeing an uptick in the community spread, we may need to revisit this for our school. Now, obviously, if we had an outbreak in the school, we need to revisit it sooner. But if we start seeing a strong uptick in our community spread, I think we should have an emergency meeting and make that decision.
Right. As far as the uptick in the school numbers, I think that needs to be flexible. We need to have the flexibility to look at, do we have 60 kids in 2 classrooms next to one another, or 60 kids throughout the district that all went to a party one Friday night?
Right.
It's such a large number of variables to look at. I don't think we should put a hard number on it. I think it needs to be a case by case or cases by cases involving the health department and a really good analysis of why more than one kid has it. As far as community spread, I would have to agree. If we had a sudden outbreak in the Tecumseh community, we'd probably have to jump on a meeting, an emergency meeting, and address that. As far as school spread, there's some ambiguity there. There we go, ambiguity there. And I think that our policy pretty much lays that power in Rick's hands to respond to a viral outbreak or anything else. So we don't really need to set those parameters here in this plan. They already exist in our policy separately, and that'll give Rick the fluidity to react to it with the health department's guidance when that time comes. John?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we need to look at this at a case by case basis, and just, you know, if one classroom gets sick, which I think that would be the typical thing that we would see is, you know, a classroom of kids get sick. I think the other part of it is that it would have to be, you know, is it symptomatic? Is it asymptomatic? Are there hospitalizations? You know, what's the severity of the outbreak, and what's the actual, you know, outcome of it? We'd have to look at that as well. I just, you know, I've talked to quite a few people in the last few weeks. I just talked to a client today whose wife works in a pulmonologist's office, and they have a handful of clients who get tested on a daily basis. And, you know, one week they might get 2 positive tests, and then the next week they get a bunch of negative tests, and they've never had symptoms. And I think one of the issues that seems to be out there is the testing is not, it's not even 90% accurate. You know, there's struggles with the testing. So if we had, you know, a handful of positive tests come back, we'd have to really see if that was going to the next level of people actually getting sick, or if they were false positive tests. So I think we really have to look at that on a case by case basis. There isn't any hard and fast number.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate the conversation on the issue. Your thoughts pretty much mirror mine, and that's the way that I would like to handle it. I would love to believe that we will go through the school year and have 0 positive cases, but chances are that there may be something pop up, and I was hopeful that we would have this conversation, and your thoughts are the way that I feel about it. We'll react to things as they happen. If there is one nice thing about these Zoom meetings, and there aren't very many nice things, but it does allow us to react to a situation and call an emergency meeting rather quickly in a way that we can get together and discuss things. So if you're comfortable with that not being stated in the plan, then I wouldn't recommend that there be any number or threshold set at this time. The last thing that I wanted to mention, and I sent you an email earlier today, has to do with schedule options for secondary students, 7 through 12. And I merely bring it up because it's programming, so it isn't necessarily the responsibility of the board, but one of the things that we have committed to in that document that I'm asking you to attach to this motion is that we're saying that we're going to have all day, every day school for the people who are in place or in person. And it's becoming difficult to figure out, especially at the high school and the 7th and 8th grade, to figure out a schedule where we're not moving kids so much that it's hard for Tom and his crew to keep up with cleaning. So the idea is that because you have to clean every time kids change class, is to reduce the number of times that you have to change class. And that gives you a better shot at addressing those cleaning issues. So administratively, we've come up with some schedule options that have to do with a block schedule. One of them is a plan for 7-12 only that would have Wednesday be a virtual day of learning for all 7 through 12. That would allow some deep clean, but it would also allow for the teachers to communicate with individuals who need extra help. And I just want to know if the board is interested in us exploring an option like that doesn't, for 7-12, require 5-day-a-week interaction with our students live and in person, that it would give us the flexibility to have one day off a week, at least for having them in person. Teachers would still have office hours. They would still interact with kids who needed some help or some catch up or, whatever they would have to do in their office hours. So like I said, I provided it for you on email. You've only had a couple hours to digest it, but wanted to get your take on, should we stay true to our 5-day week, all day, every day in-person plan, or do you see some room for some changes that might give us some breaks in terms of how we clean and how we keep things safe? So that's the last little layer I'm going to add on this whole discussion, and I'll let you ask questions about it.
All right, we have a couple people up who had comment on this, and while you are making your comments, I would ask that you kind of give Rick a polling answer to whether or not you support that option of maybe having a virtual delivery on Wednesday. Seems like a good enough time. We might as well poll everybody now, so he has a impression on which way we lean. Becky?
I'm not opposed to it. I just want to make sure I understand what I'm looking at. So you've got a proposed schedule on it. Is that for staff? So that you're saying like the kids would log in at 7:45 and then they would be in attendance to 11:15. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yeah, that's how they would do it on the Wednesdays. And in the top two schedules, the block schedule and the normal schedule, those are the two versions of the schedule. So the block schedule would work best because there would be 4 periods a day instead of 6. So there'd be less moving around and more opportunity to clean. The virtual Wednesday would be the time where we would be able to do deep cleaning at the high school and the 7-8 spaces. And then when Tecumseh had block schedule before, they ran their schedule like this. There were A days, B days, and then they called their other day an M day, which was for Monday. And Monday, the kids ran through their full schedule. So they saw all of their teachers. That would happen in the virtual calendar or schedule. So they would still check in with each of their teachers on the virtual day, but it just wouldn't be happening in person, and therefore it wouldn't require us to clean 6 times during the day. So it would be patterned after the old block schedule, A days and B days, and then the M day, what we used to call it, would be a virtual Wednesday in the middle of the week where kids would check in with their teachers. There probably wouldn't be any new instruction. It would be mostly Q&A, homework help, things like that, but it would be at a distance, and therefore we wouldn't be changing classes 6 times during that day in person and requiring us to clean each of those times. So it's just something that we've come up with in the last couple of weeks. But again, it's a variance from that idea that we're going to have all day, every day school in person. For 7-12, it's not as big of an impact for parents in terms of childcare. So that's why we're not recommending it for the younger ages, because we do have to keep in mind that parents are counting on us if they're going in person to be the place where their kids are taken care of. And we want to certainly support that. We're just suggesting that 7-12, we could have that day in the middle of the week where they could see all their teachers. It wouldn't be in person, and therefore we wouldn't have the cleaning requirements that are dictated in the roadmap.
So what you're saying is, either way, you're looking at, you're interested in doing a virtual Wednesday with either a normal schedule or with a block schedule.
You know, we favor the block schedule with a virtual Wednesday. We could do it if we were going to do a normal schedule. Actually, the virtual isn't as helpful, except that it just gives us one day to do some deep cleaning. And it's one day less that we have to clean 6 times.
And it all aligns with LSD, it looks like.
Yeah, that we can still, we made the calendar work before. We have to start a little earlier. The early start time of 7:25 would have to be in place for the high school, because then you have to have first and second hour and then get kids to the tech center.
Okay.
So we've done it before. We're just suggesting if we put that back in, it would really help Tom in terms of not having to clean as many times if we have a block schedule. And then on those Wednesdays, they could really do the disinfecting, use the electrostatic fogger, and clean things more deeply. So it's just a thought, just an idea. It's something that we want to talk to the teachers about. We've roughed out a lot of the bones in the plan for instruction, and now we're getting down to the days where we want to get teacher input. And this is one of the things that we want to get more input on how it might work. But I want to get the board's take on, taking that little bit of a path away from 5-day, all day, every day, in-person instruction that we have proposed to this point.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Rick, could I get a clarification before we move on to John here? The virtual Wednesdays, the teacher involvement with the students, is that going to be the teacher kind of a remote classroom with the entire class in mass, or is that more of a one-on-one with the kids who need the help or need the guidance?
We want the check-in with office hours to be available to students. Some may opt to do that and some may not opt to do it. But we want the staff members to be available for it, for question and answer and for support.
Okay, so you're really looking at more of one-on-one with each student on the virtual days, right?
Yeah, and there may be some pupil accounting issues that we have to deal with that may require us to have a check-in with each kid. So, we'll have to figure that out. If we do have some pupil accounting issues with a virtual day per week, then we're going to have to follow those guidelines, and we may have to require everybody check in and that we take attendance. So if that's a requirement, we'll certainly do that. The benefit for us is based on the cleaning protocol and one day a week being able to address the deep cleaning and not having to see kids 6 times and the difficulties that suggests to us.
All right, John?
I think when Rick and I talked last week, I was telling him that I really think one of the keys is to keep the kids in the classroom, the same classroom with the same group as often as possible. And I realize as we get into the higher grades, that makes it more difficult. So I think the block schedule is definitely the way to go. And even if you can even refine that more to keep the kids in the same classrooms. As far as the virtual Wednesday goes, to me, it looks like it's just going to be a blow off day. And I think with the options that we have right now for the kids, I don't think we need a virtual day. We have virtual options and we have classroom options. And I don't think we should sway from a normal week of classroom instruction when we have other options out there. So I have to say that I'm not a fan of the virtual Wednesday because I think these kids need the 5 days of instruction. And as far as the deep cleaning goes, from what Tom said with the foggers, the cleaning times should be reduced, and the foggers make things, they disinfect everything and they do it quicker. So if we can find a way to do a better job with the block schedule to reduce the amount of movement throughout the day, I don't think we need that additional, deep cleaning day. So yes to the block schedule, no to the virtual Wednesdays.
Thank you. Tim or Suzanne? Milt?
Well, I agree with John. I'd say no to the virtual Wednesday and the block schedule. I mean, we really should be, I understand we're doing cleaning in between passing, but we also need to be doing the deep cleaning every night anyway. So after school's out, and even the virtual Wednesday, you're still gonna have kids coming in and out of the school because of athletics and so forth, if we have athletics. I'm against the virtual Wednesday, so.
Okay.
Suzanne?
I feel the same way about the virtual Wednesday. The first thing that comes to my mind is we've already lost 3 months of education. So kids are probably slightly behind. So they need catch up time, not get more behind time. And I think that's what's going to happen with the virtual Wednesday. And I just got to think about which is better for learning. We obviously went from the block schedule to normal scheduling for a reason, because we thought it was better. So I guess I can get going to block scheduling maybe for a semester, but I don't know how hard it is to go and then switch back. I'm all about what's best for kids. I know it's hard to reduce class, switching because everyone's going to a different class. I don't know if there's a different way we can do cleaning. It doesn't have to be deep cleaning, I don't think, every 6 hours, but yeah, I'm more towards the normal schedule, but if block scheduling is the way to go to reduce movement for this next semester, I'd be okay with that, but I'm not a fan of virtual. That's it.
Okay. Milt, anything additional?
Not really. My biggest concern would be, I'd like to hear from the teachers how they feel about it. As a board member, I really don't know how the teachers would react to the virtual day. I'm all for getting the schools, keeping them clean. And if that's what you would recommend, Rick, I'd stand behind what you're saying.
Honestly, Milt, I'm prepared to recommend the block schedule because I conceptually understand the benefits that we'll get in terms of the cleaning protocols. The virtual Wednesday idea is something that, we'll spend a little bit more time talking with staff about what the benefits would be and focus primarily on what the benefits might be to kids, not to anything else. So if you don't mind, we'll just tinker with it and maybe bring it back. Now that the start of the school year is pushed back a week, our next board meeting is the 24th. So we'll still have some time to make alterations and we'll come back to you with some further recommendations. But we'll pursue block and make some refined suggestions based on what teachers tell us if we included a virtual day midweek. I see the benefits of it in terms of how block ran previously, which was, like I said, 2 A days, 2 B days a week, and then an M day where they ran through their whole schedule. Now, at that time, there were 8 classes in a day, and now there's 6. So that has reduced from where it was in the past. But we'll play around with it, and I'll keep you posted through my updates, and we'll talk about it again on the 24th if you don't mind.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, I'm going to get my penny and a half in on this one too. I see the block scheduling being beneficial health-wise as far as limiting movement for the kids, limiting passing time in the hallway. I'm a little hesitant on the virtual myself. Even in a virtual classroom or remote classroom setting, I don't think kids, when it comes down to one-on-one with the teachers, are just reaching out if they need the help kind of situation. I think most kids are going to view that as their midweek Saturday is the reality. So I'm hesitant on that. Now, I don't think we should discount it completely. If we start to have cases of COVID pop up in the high school, let's say, we start to get peppered here and there with the cases, we might want to look at it then as a way to keep it a little bit cleaner and to limit exposure for the kids, but strictly as a reaction if we start to see cases pop up. I don't think we need to create an extra Saturday in the week for the kids unless I'm getting one at work too. I think that's the bottom line. So.
Okay, good. I appreciate everybody's thoughts on it. It's a relatively new topic that we've approached. Again, we haven't talked to the association about the idea. That needs to happen. We want to kind of test this with our teachers, but I wanted to bring it to your attention because it does deviate from what we have talked about in those 3 plans. So at this time, more or less, I'm ready to rest my case. I would ask that the board attach that 1-page document and pass it as an addendum to the roadmap that the district will follow. And you can move forward on the motion, I think, at this time, Kevin.
All right. John, you have something to add before we move forward?
My only concern or question, I guess, is, with getting the hours in for the kids, if they only have a half day once a week, are they still getting, the classroom time for their, required hours annually?
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things we definitely have to check on to see if people accounting will even allow it. You're right.
All right. So we have the question. What I'm going to do is, Becky, we have a question in a second. Could you please reread the question since we've gone probably 45 minutes since we asked it?
Okay, what would you like me to do the amendment?
No, we already have a second on that question.
Right. So
let's go ahead and then we'll have a second motion to add the addendum afterwards to keep this clean. Okay.
Okay. So with that in mind then, I hereby move to approve the 2020-21 return to school roadmap for Tecumseh Public Schools as presented.
All right. And we had a second on that. So we'll take a roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Passes unanimously. I would like to make a motion to add the addendum sheet provided today to the board to the roadmap that was just approved.
Second.
We have support. Roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The addendum is added. Next action item, 2020 and 2021 building handbooks. Could I get a motion, please, Becky?
I hereby move to approve the 2020-2021 building handbooks with recommended changes as presented.
Did I have support from someone?
Suzanne, support from Suzanne.
All right, we had support from Suzanne. Roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up just a second. Was there any discussion to go with that? All right. Let's move ahead with the roll call vote. Tim was aye. Milt?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Building handbooks are approved. Next action item, childcare handbook.
I hereby
Get a
move
motion?
to approve the 2020-21 childcare handbook with the recommended changes as presented.
Support.
Roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Childcare handbook is approved. Next action item, district Chromebook policy.
I hereby move to approve the district Chromebook policy, Chrome device policy to be effective with the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
Support.
Give it to Milt. He was a little bit faster, Tim. Sorry. Roll call vote. John?
Are we going to discuss, do we have any
Oh,
discussion on
I'm
this?
sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I skipped over the discussion.
I didn't see anything in here as far as I see it mentioned in here, but I just wanted to make sure we're gonna have a signature page for the parents and the students. It's not attached. It does mention it in here. That's a key, I think, to this policy, that both the parents and the students sign it before they're handed a device. So I
I'd have to
didn't
look-
see an actual signature form on here, but I'm assuming there's one somewhere.
Yeah, years ago, it used to actually be printed as part of the handbook. I don't know if that page is still in there or not, Terry, but it's also, I think in the past, we have been sort of passive about it and said that it's on our website, please download it. But we can pass that along electronically very easily through our Blackboard alert system.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's signed, but also that it's followed, because I know that we've had a lot of, repairs and replacements and just Chromebooks that never returned. And, these are a pretty big cost for us every year. And I want to make sure I know Devin's done a great job of labeling and tracking everything. I just want to make sure we stay on top of that.
Yeah, you're right. We need to corral the whole issue, and with probably roughly double the devices in people's hands this year, it's a critical year that we make sure that we follow it, and we will.
All right. So the short answer to John's question is that yes, there's a required signature. It's just not attached to the paperwork, right?
That's correct.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Now we'll move on to roll call. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Passes unanimously. Next up is our 2020 and 2021 facility
Kevin?
use fee schedule. Whoop, whoop.
We've got to approve the calendar.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I added it at the end of the action items.
Okay. Yep.
Next action item was a 2020 and 2021 facility use fee schedule.
Did we decide to move on this or was?
I think we need to table it because the only schedule that we have is the old schedule, so. And we didn't really discuss anything, so I say table it.
All right, well, let's do this. We left it on our action item schedule
We're gonna
here.
let it move forward and let them work on it and develop it and investigate a little more on what the costs were gonna be and come back. I
That's
thought
what we were supposed to do. That was the whole purpose of having it as an action item, was we were supposed to have the information tonight to be able to do that.
All right, well, let's keep this a clean action item slate then. Let's get a motion on it and it'll either die without a second or we can vote it down and then we can come back with another one
Yep.
at the next meeting.
I hereby move to approve the 2020-2021 facility use fee schedule with expanded fees to cover any additional cleaning that may be required.
Is there a second?
Well, I moved to keep the schedule until the end of the first semester and revisit it at that point. So we have something right now.
So Tim is making a motion to amend Becky's motion
Yep.
to reevaluate at the end of the first semester.
Yep.
Is there support for the amended motion?
Support.
All right. Roll call vote. Becky,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Milt,
Aye.
John,
No,
Suzanne.
Aye.
All right, I will vote aye. It passes. And we will revisit this at the end of the first semester once we have some more experience with COVID under our belt. The last action item is the school calendar, which I wish I could read my own writing right now. Yep, it's the school calendar amended to start September 8th and end on June 10th. Becky?
I hereby move to approve the revision of the school calendar to now begin on September 8th with the school year ending June 10th.
Support.
Roll call. John?
aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. That'll bring us to our consent agenda. Becky?
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the board organizational meeting of July 20th, 2020, minutes from the special board meeting of July 28th, 2020, and the July 2020 monthly check registry.
Support.
Roll call. Suzanne?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. Next item is the superintendent's report. Rick?
Okay, just a few more things. I'm sure you've all heard enough from me tonight, to last you for a couple of weeks, but some things that are important to note. Negotiations with the TEA were completed and an agreement made. That agreement has to rest with the membership for 10 days. And tonight's meeting didn't fit inside that window. So we'll be bringing the agreement to the next meeting for your approval. Essentially, we have agreed to roll over the contract for 1 year, agreed to the merit pay increases. We made a lot of progress on some language issues that we will reinvest time in over the current school year. We are also actively working with the TEA on some of the working conditions that are related to the types of teaching formats that we're going to be approaching here between the two online and the one in-person option. So we've got some things to work out there, and we'll have another session tomorrow to get those things ironed out. It'll just require a letter of agreement once we're all finished with those issues. The Building Futures Committee met again, made some very nice progress, I think. We went through several different, a total of 9 different potential scenarios that would address facilities in the district, and very much narrowed it down to a couple of really feasible plans. So a couple more meetings, and then I think they'll be ready to make a presentation to the board later in the fall on what program they might suggest. But we're getting good participation and really whittling down to some doable ideas. I want to say a thank you to my administrative team. Really happy with Kelly coming on to the central administration, and she and Terry are going to take things from here to address the hiring needs in her department. So may be able to bring some recommendations or at least some information to you about those hires at the 24th meeting. My building administrators have spent a lot of time in meetings with each other, with me, with their staff. They're doing a great job, and they're getting experience in an area where really none of us are experts. So I just want to say thank you publicly for the extra time, the extra effort, and thought that they have put into all these plans. Also to our staff, we have lots of people who are taking extra PD this summer. Our instructional coaches are spearheading most of that, doing a fantastic job with really just getting ready for the teaching year, getting familiar with the Google tools, specifically Google Meet, for those who are going to be in an online environment. And really what we've instructed is for everybody to be prepared to teach the distance model, because there's every possibility that at some point we could all go online. So a lot of people uploading that information. We mentioned the book study at the last time. That has begun. The title of the book is We Got This. It has to do with equity and addressing implicit bias within our organization. We've all had, those of us who are participating, one discussion, and the facilitators, who are all classroom teachers, are doing a great job of facilitating those discussions. So thank you to the people who are participating with that. And then I guess just lastly to you, I know that tonight was a lengthy discussion, and I know that there's some pretty heavy issues on the table here. I appreciate the time that you spend listening, all of your opinions. It certainly bring us to be mindful of all the different ways to think about things. So the time that you put into prepping for the meeting and sitting here and having the conversations, I really appreciate it. It does help us in our learning as we're trying to figure out all these issues. I'd love to say that we're 100% ready to go, but we're not, and neither is anybody else. And we're just going to continue to grind away at it and be prepared when the time comes. So that's all I have. Appreciate it, and we'll talk again later.
Thank you, Rick. Point of privilege here before we go any further. I have one person registered for our public comment who is in our boardroom, and they have disappeared, or in our boardroom. They were in our waiting room, and they have disappeared. We have public comment coming up in just a few minutes, so if they are listening and they can sign back in, please do. And we'll get to you in public comment in a few minutes. Next item on our agenda is the item scheduled for our next agenda. That includes the good news. Discussion items was policy review for the 3,000 and 4,000 updates. And action items were, well, it was actually the school calendar, which we took care of tonight. So that'll come off. Rick, do you have anything to add for our upcoming agenda in 2 weeks?
Just the items that I mentioned a moment ago. You know, we'll bring forth the final calendar agreement. You know, that the TEA will still have to ratify what we amended tonight. And just continued updates on the versions of instruction. As of tonight, we're closing in on 800 students that we're going to be putting online. By the time we meet again, we should have staffing resources allocated to the different models, and we'll have a discussion about that.
All righty. Well, that does bring us to our last public comment on any topic. I have not seen anyone populate our waiting room. So unfortunately, we have lost the person who had registered for the public comment, probably due to our 3.5-hour meeting or whatever it's been. So we will move on to board member comments and discussions. Any board member comments or discussions? Everybody's quiet, wants me to shut up so they can go home. Milt, did you have something to add?
Yeah, Rick, is there a plan that if the governor decides to shut all this down, that we can do totally virtual for the whole school district?
Yeah, the statement that we've made is that in the event that we go to phase 3, that the whole district will be in the distance learning model. If they select the virtual academy, we can accommodate that. We'll encourage people to stay in the distance learning model because it's the easiest transition back to face-to-face instruction. So that plan A is the distance learning. And simply, I just want to make sure that the public knows that the distance learning plan is only similar to what we did in the spring because it's online. But this time around, there's accountability, there's attendance requirements. There will be daily sessions, there'll be grades, there'll be activities that will be much more rigorous than under the continuity of learning plan that we experienced in the spring. So similar, but not the same.
All right, thanks.
All right. Becky?
Couple things. Thank you to all the administrators and everything. Like Rick said, Tom, last year, you know, we were trying to tackle how to keep Compass clean, and now we've got a whole new ball game to deal with. So thank you for all your efforts. And Rick, I mean, you're really the one that's putting it all together. So thank you so much for everything you've done to try and get us ready for a safe new school year. And Kelly, welcome aboard to you as well. It is going to be a challenge. I don't think any of us are kidding ourselves about that. But I think if anybody can do it, TPS can.
I just want to say welcome aboard, Kelly. And I look forward to seeing you.
John, you're up.
Well, first I want to thank everybody because this has been insane, and it's probably going to continue to be insane until November, and then hopefully all the insanity will go away. Fingers crossed. But if the state decides to go to a phase 3 and we are not seeing changes to our current status quo in Lenawee County or Tecumseh, do we even have the ability to keep the schools open? And what would the ramifications be if we did try to keep the schools open during phase 3? That's just something to think about. I don't expect an answer right now, but if, you know, this one size fits all doesn't always fit all. And I can see how, you know, Detroit or Lansing or even Ann Arbor could have an outbreak or issues that wouldn't necessarily affect us. And I think, you know, the last thing we want to do is fall back into that full virtual program. But I'm just throwing it out there because I have a feeling we're going to go to phase 3 before November. And, you know, can we fight it? I guess is the big question. And if we try to fight it, what's the ramification?
All right. I think, no, I don't think anybody else had anything to say. All right. Well, that leaves just me to say something. Next meeting on the 24th, we are going to be hopeful that will be an in-person meeting. However, there will be some restrictions, so we will be live streaming it. That is our hope at this point. We may have that hope squashed by our legal counsel. We will see. I'll be checking on that right before the next meeting. However, when we do finally go back to in-person, we will be live streaming it because we can't possibly accommodate social distancing and a packed boardroom, not even a packed gymnasium, really. So we'll be in person, but live streaming it as a platform for public participation also. That's what our hopes are. We'll leave it up to legal counsel to bless it or squash it. Tim, you unmuted there?
Yeah, I think we can definitely go back to in person. The city hall's doing it. So we'll just have to live stream it. But again, check with the lawyers. But if we're telling kids to go back to school, we ought to be meeting in person. So we got a lot of mixed messages from Lansing, and it's time to get going. So. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. The messages from Lansing, there's a different message for public bodies and public meetings and school districts. They're just two different things with different messaging and rules. So we'll, of course, lean heavily on advice from attorneys. We don't want to get ourselves in any trouble and cost the district any money because we were headstrong on going back. So when they give us the blessing, we'll be back. But I would hope logic prevails, and if we're going back to school, we should certainly be going back to physical board meetings too, for sure.
Yeah, and if we still live stream and create a Zoom option for reports and comments, we should very much be able to do it.
Yeah, I anticipate that we will. At least I hope we will.
Hey, I'll be the only one sitting in there, so.
The cookies are a lot better in person.
That's right. Yep.
You know, you got a lot of cookies to catch up on there.
Yeah.
All right, that'll bring us to our adjournment. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. I will see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone.